Good day, listeners. Welcome to the world of Chandamama. Let's continue with Saga of Vishnu. In the previous chapter, we saw how Narada Maharshi, based on his own experience, encourages Dhruva to perform a penance to achieve his goal. Let's learn about Narada Maharshi's story in this chapter. Saga of Vishnu, Mystery of the Pole Star, Chapter 3. Sutta began narrating the story of Narada at the request of other sages. Narada bore the same name even in his previous life when he and his mother worked in the household of a wealthy man. His master was a pious man who was never tired of entertaining or serving hermits and travelers. The boy Narada was placed at the beck and call of the guests. As the boy was often required to fetch water for the guests, he came to be called Narada, which meant the bringer of water. Everybody liked him. One day, unfortunately, Narada's poor mother was bitten by a snake and she died. He had never seen his father, who had either died or had deserted them. Narada was now a complete orphan. It so happened that Narada's employer too died. The family fell into bad days and Narada found himself without any shelter. He roamed in search of food or employment. As he was wearing tattered clothes and had sad looks, he was mistaken to be mad. Some boys pelted stones at him for fun. He was laughed at when people asked him what his father's name was and he failed to answer. By and by, he was disgusted with the ways of the world. It's better to live in a forest in the company of animals than in any human habitation, he thought. And he remembered what he heard from holy men who used to be his master's guests. How the forest was the abode of hermits and yogis. Why shouldn't I become a hermit myself? Why shouldn't I devote my life to meditation and prayers? Men have failed me, true, but surely God would not fail me. He thought further. Indeed, he entered the forest and sat down and plunged into a deep meditation. O God, you are my true Father and my Savior. I don't think I'm meant for the ordinary ways of lives. That's why I turn to you, he told him in his prayers. So deep was his concentration and devotion that a time came when he became one with Vishnu. He ceased to exist as a separate being. Then, when it was time for a new creation to begin, out of Vishnu's navel emerged a divine lotus, and Brahma emerged from that lotus. Narada was one of the beings to come out of Brahma's consciousness. Hence, he was considered to be a son of Brahma and an emanation of Vishnu. He shuttled between the abode of Vishnu and the domain of gods, and between the domain of gods and the world of men, and played a unique role in the affairs of the gods, demons, and men. Narada realized the great sincerity with which Dhruva wished to meditate on God. He guided him how to go about it, and following his advice, Dhruva walked towards a lonely spot. But his stepbrother Uttamakumara came running to him and pleaded with him to return to the palace. Look here, my brother, if you go away, with whom shall I play, and with whom shall I sing the glory of God? My mother might have been unkind to you, but have I ever shown any disrespect towards you? Said Uttamakumara between sobs. Don't grieve, my sweet younger brother. But I must concentrate on the Lord and prove that I am a worthy son of my pious mother. After all, she has accorded her silent approval for the step I am taking. You should not stand in my way, said Dhruva in an affectionate yet firm tone. In that case, my brother, allow me to follow you, said Uttamakumara. How can you do that, my dear Uttam? That would make your mother unhappy. I am your elder brother and I advise you to go back to the palace and lead the life of an ideal prince. They were Dhruva's parting words to his brother. Upset at her son's conduct, Queen Suruchi appeared on the spot. But her son Uttamakumara was furious with her. Mother, it is your unkindness that has deprived me of my brother's company, so you should not even touch me, he told her. Head hung in shame, Queen Suruchi admitted to her blunder. King Uttanapada too came there and told Dhruva, My son, the kingdom is yours. Pardon me for my momentary blunder. Please come back. Dhruva bowed to his father, but he showed no sign of relenting. He began moving away. Just then, Narada arrived there and consoled the king, saying, Dhruva is destined to achieve what none else has achieved so far. He will glorify your dynasty. He has surrendered himself to Vishnu and his destiny will be molded by him. You shouldn't worry on his count, but be proud of him. As directed by Narada, Dhruva reached a beautiful grove known as Madhuvan and became engrossed in meditation on Vishnu, chanting his holy name. The river Yamuna seemed to echo his chanting through her sweet murmurs. Days passed and the intensity of Dhruva's meditation kept growing. A time came when Indra, the king of the gods, grew panicky, for he feared that Dhruva, by the dint of his penance, might capture his position from him. Indra created a severe storm to scare Dhruva out of his concentration. He even threw thunderbolts aiming at him. When Dhruva did not budge at all, he sent a whirlwind carrying innumerable pebbles which were intended to harass Dhruva. But, to the surprise of the king of the gods, all such tactics failed to disturb Dhruva. Little did Indra know that the Sudarshana, the mighty weapon of Vishnu, circling invisibly over Dhruva's head, protected him from all such attacks. Indra, said Narada, do you consider Dhruva a mere ambitious boy desiring your lofty position? He is not that. His only aim is to invoke the grace of Vishnu and nothing else. He hardly cares for any position or power. Indra realized his error and thereafter nursed nothing but goodwill for Dhruva. Before long, Vishnu appeared before Dhruva. His joy was beyond description. He rolled on the Lord's lotus feet and said, O my soul master, how much I wish to chant your name ceaselessly and through words that are appropriate. But I do not possess the knowledge of the right words. What do I do? Lord Vishnu then put his conch shell on Dhruva's head for a moment. Instantly the Vedas were revealed to the young devotee. He began to chant the hymns fluently. What boon do you wish to have, my boy? Asked Vishnu. Like the lotus which loves to gaze at the sun all the time, I too wish to see your ever compassionate face continuously, O Lord, answered Dhruva. That will be possible, but for the time being you should return to your father's palace, resume your princely duties, rule the kingdom with justice and lead an ideal life. Thereafter, you will be placed in the firmament in a way so that your position never changes and your gaze remains eternally fixed on me, assured Vishnu before disappearing. Dhruva was overwhelmed with gratitude. This particular descent of Vishnu is known as Dhruva Narayana Avatara. Dhruva returned to Mahishmati, the city of his father, to the great joy of all. He ascended the throne when King Uttanapada retired to the forest to lead the last phase of his life as a hermit. Dhruva proved himself an ideal ruler. One day, while Prince Uttamakumara had gone to the forest for hunting, the Yakshas, a supernatural tribe residing in the forest, attacked him and killed him. Unable to bear the loss of her son, Queen Suruchi entered the forest and died in a forest fire. Dhruva led an expedition against the Yakshas. A fierce battle ensued. Kuvera, the king of the Yakshas, sent some terrible weapons against Dhruva. But the grace of Vishnu, which enveloped Dhruva, rendered those weapons totally ineffective. At last, Kubera appealed for a truce and paid a huge compensation to Dhruva. After a long period of glorious rule, Dhruva crowned his eldest son as the king and retired to Badarika Ashrama. There he remained absorbed in trance and his body glowed like gold. At the appropriate time, a chariot reached him to fly him to his ultimate destination. But Dhruva told the charioteer that he would not like to depart to the heavenly spheres, leaving his mother behind. The charioteer pointed his finger at the distant horizon, and Dhruva saw his mother, Queen Suniti, ascending to the heavens in another chariot. Dhruva then happily boarded the chariot meant for him. It took him beyond so many high spheres of the cosmos and left him in the sphere marked for him, which came to be known as the Dhruvaloka. From his own sphere, Dhruva had no difficulty in viewing Vishnu all the time, while the Saptarishi or the constellation of the seven stars circled him. Dhruva, as a shining star, is remarkable for his constancy and luminosity. In conclusion, sage Sutta said, "There is nothing that cannot be achieved with faith in the divine and determination." Dhruva, who took a firm decision even at a tender age of 5, is the finest demonstration of this truth. The hermits and sages who listened to Sutta with rapt attention demanded of him more about Vishnu, who they knew had incarnated several times upon the earth. Indeed, Vishnu took several forms from time to time, but in the series of his major incarnations, after fish comes the tortoise or the Kurma Avatara. Sutta narrated the story of this incarnation of Vishnu, which was like this. Long, long ago, the gods as well as the demons found out the fact that they could achieve immortality only if they consumed the nectar which lay hidden at the bottom of the ocean of milk. The ocean had to be churned if the nectar were to be brought to the surface. Needless to say, churning the expansive ocean was no easy matter. Vishnu helped them by lifting Mount Mandara and placing it amidst the ocean. That was to be used as the churning rod. The serpent king Vasuki agreed to serve as the rope to be tied to the churning rod. When the gods wanted to hold the upper part of the serpent, the demons took it to be a privilege and demanded that they be allotted the upper part. The gods at first were unwilling to concede to them to their demand, but Vishnu advised them not to make it an issue of controversy. Thus, the demons had their way. The great churning then began. This is about the 3rd chapter. Let's continue with the story of Kurma Avatara in the next chapter. Thank you for listening. This is Ramya signing off.